Here, 9 weeks ago, their 13-year-old son, Casey, was shot and killed while one of his friends played with his father's gun. Kathy and Herb, I know the pain of losing a child is excruciating, and I know that this is something that's very fresh for you. Thank you very much for coming to share the story. 13 years is so young, and he had so much to live for. Tell me about him. You just gave me something that your sister wrote
Yeah,
at the funeral.
She wrote that and she read
I got
that.
some kind of a feeling. What was he like?
He was a really fun kid. He was funny. He could always make you laugh. He had a good sense of humor. He did a lot of practical jokes. And he loved to go fishing, and he wanted to do a lot of things when he grew up. And he wanted to be a pilot. Ever since he was a little boy, he was always fascinated with diggers, is what he called them. And when he grew up, down in the corner of our property, he was going to dig a pond and fill it with fish and things like that.
Sounds like my kind of boy.
Yeah, he was fun.
You, Herb, keep guns in your home?
Yes, I do.
Because you hunt?
Right.
Are they locked all the
Yes.
time?
The
Always?
guns are locked always, and the bullets are locked in another spot.
And you've taught, do you have other sons?
Yes, 2 more.
And you've taught Casey, was he the youngest?
Yes.
Not to go near the guns?
Right.
Can you tell me what happened that day?
It was a Friday. There was no school in Stoughton. One of Casey's friends called and he'd wanted him to come over. And Casey'd been over there a few times before, and his friend, he's a nice kid, and they were talking on the phone, and I was going to make lunch for Casey and us, and Casey was talking to him, and he said, "Oh shoot," he said, "I should have got up early," because Casey slept in that morning. He said, "If I would have got up earlier," and he was talking to his friend and me at the same time. He said, "If I would have got up earlier, we could have gone over and target practiced with his dad." And right away I said, "No way." I said, "You're not going if there's guns." The only time they ever did that was with their dad, you know. And Casey and our other 2 boys had been through hunter safety. And so him and his friend were talking on the phone, and Casey pretty much right away said, "Oh, don't worry, Mom, we can't. You know, the gun's locked up and his dad had to go." He said, "We can't." He said, "If I go over there, we'll play in the fort." And I'd heard about the fort, you know, they lived along the river, and, you know, I said, "Well, let's wait and see, you know, and you call him back." Well, then a while later, he had lunch and he called back, and he really wanted to go. And I said, "Well, I didn't have a..."
Herb fight with every day for the last few weeks, but their fight has been going on for close to 3 years. Their 15-year-old son, Kyle, was also accidentally shot and killed by a friend. And what's more alarming is the loaded gun belonged to the boy's father, who was a police officer. I know this is still difficult for you to discuss. You told us that Kyle could always make you laugh, and was every parent's dream?
Yes, definitely.
You mean a good 15-year-old boy?
Yes.
There is such a thing.
There is such a thing?
Yes.
Come on, you know I'm kidding.
Yes. Kyle had just really came into his own. He was platinum blonde, blue eyes, and very small stature, and he had just started to grow the year before and was into lacrosse, and he was a police explorer, and all of a sudden he wasn't shy anymore, and there were 4 of them that hung around, the 4 Musketeers, and he was out all the time doing something.
My question is, he was 15 years old. Do you keep a gun?
I have some guns in the house.
Do you?
I always have. I grew up with guns.
Why? Why do you keep them in the house?
They're guns that I had when I was a child. I just haven't gotten rid of them. I haven't been hunting in 10 years, but we still have the guns.
There's
they
no
locked?
bullets or anything like
They're
that.
not locked, but I don't have any bullets.
You don't have any bullets.
No, and they've
No
been put away.
ammunition in the
The
house.
kids don't even know where they are.
Can you tell me about that day? July?
July 5th, it was a Monday. Kyle used to go mountain biking almost every day with his dad. And so he was going
We do
over
too.
he was going over to Michael's to go mountain biking. And I went to the store. I came home. I just put the groceries away, put the flowers in a vase, There was the doorbell. And I opened it, and it was a policeman and another gentleman. And the policeman asked me if I was Mrs. Hirons, and I said yes. And he said, there's been an accident. And the first thing was, I thought, our oldest son is up in Maine. The first thing that came to mind was that he was in a car accident or something. And he said, no, he's been shot, and he's on his way to Lifestar. They're taking him by Lifestar to Hartford Hospital. And my mind just went blank. And I went in immediately and started cleaning up the kitchen. It was like I didn't know what to do. It's like total shock. No, this isn't happening to me. You know, not my son. Kyle was a very responsible child. He came home, he knew what he had to do, and he did it. We never had a problem ever with Kyle with anything. And the other gentleman turned out to be a priest, and he wanted to know which neighbor, who was home, that they needed somebody to drive me right away to the hospital. And it still hadn't dawned on me if he was going by Lifestar that this...
Louisiana. Did I say that all right?
Yeah.
Louisiana. Only 4 weeks ago, Susan's 2 daughters were playing in their home when 8-year-old Melody accidentally shot and killed 4-year-old Melinda, or Mimi as they affectionately called her. Melody is in our green room, and we'll have to see what's in her mind, whether or not she joins us. This all happened so quickly. Both of you are single parents, mother and daughter. Connie, you were at work when the incident happened. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Tell me what happened, as you know it.
Well, I called home about 4:16. I get off at 4:30, and I asked Susan how was the kids, and everything was fine at home. So I told her I had gotten paid that day, so I said, well, I'm going to stop by the bank, and I'm coming straight home. Well, when I got home, my house was roped off. It was a crime scene. My children were running. The baby had been taken to the hospital, and I had to kind of get the kids together, and I put my 14-year-old daughter in the car, and I told my nephew to stay at the house with Melody, and I took off to the hospital.
Susan, you were home that day?
Yeah, I had just got off work that morning, and they were up playing. They were scheduled to go to the dentist that day, and I didn't take them because I was tired, and I called the dentist and rescheduled everything. About 12, we got up, and we went to Taco Bell. We came back, and about 1:30, I lay back down, and about 4 o'clock, I got up, and I said, we were going to straighten up your closet. And I straightened the top shelf of the closet, and the phone rang. And I went to the phone, and I heard the gun go off.
Where was the gun kept?
It was on the shelf, hidden up under the clothes. I immediately dropped the phone, hung it up. I ran calling their names, and I didn't hear anybody. I went to the closet, and the doors were shut, but they weren't closed all the way. I opened the door, and Melinda was laying on the floor in Melody's arms. I snatched Melinda out the closet, and I began to do CPR. And at the time, I called 911. They came shortly after, and they put Melinda on the stretcher, and they took her away. She had been shot in the head, close range, right above the eye. Melody had taken the gun off the shelf.
Matter. Less than 2 years ago, Ricky was riding high.
Yes.
Those are your words, or so he thought. Kind of living in the fast lane.
Thought I was Mr. Untouchable.
Mr. Untouchable. Were you a member of a gang?
Yes.
That was until he was gunned down point blank and paralyzed from the waist down. What happened, Ricky?
I went to Aurora to get away from some trouble that was happening in Chicago because there was a war going on.
Between 2 gangs?
Yeah, and it was.
Had you ever thought of getting out of the gangs? I mean,
I thought about it a lot, but it's not as easy as everybody thinks it is. Just to say, okay, I'm finished. I mean, it's not that easy. So things were getting really hectic. I mean, people were killing people left and right for nothing. So I decided to go and get away for a little while. me and the two people that I were with, we forgot that we didn't have any more cigarettes left, so we decided to walk to the gas station to go buy some cigarettes. So we made it to the gas station okay, and then we started coming back. And on the way back, it was all right until we got to about a block and a half away from his house. And once we got there, there's this one car just like drove by going about maybe 5-10 miles an hour. So I went and I screamed back to the guy behind me to tell him to watch out for the car because they were going to come back. And he said they ain't going to come back. Don't worry about it. I said, all right. But in my mind, I'm thinking they're going to come back. They're going to come back. I had like this weird feeling inside that they were going to come back. And we got maybe about another block, and I seen the car coming back at us, but with no lights, no nothing. And I said, nah, this doesn't look good. When I seen the car coming, I went to tell the guy in front of me to watch out for the car. And as soon as I got to put my hand on him, I heard gunshot.
Shot in the head and killed while he played at a friend's home. Susan feels that it's not right to just let DJ die in vain. So what are you doing?
I went out and changed the Connecticut gun laws and won.
What do you want to tell us since you've been there? What changes do we need to make in all the states?
First of all, you know, sitting back there listening to all these stories this morning, my heart just went out to everybody. I relived everything all over again. Kathy, I feel your pain, I really do. Every word that you said, it's like it brought back the same memories, the same thoughts, the same feelings. We've got to make a change. We've got to stop these kids from dying. They're dying needlessly. They can be prevented. We need to have laws in all the states. What I'm doing with my organization, GRIEF, which stands for Gun Responsibility in Every Family.
Beautiful day in our suburban neighborhood, and it's safe. Not as much different than Ricky's neighborhood. It's just we left our doors open. You know, never any violence or anything. We just needed to be happy and be kids. You know, and we.
How did the woman? It was a woman who did this.
It was she. Yeah,
Should-
it was. She was
should
a
she have
babysitter.
had- should
a
she
local
have had a
babysitter.
gun?
Absolutely not. She was mentally disturbed, on medication. She had a record of violence. And what happened was she snapped one day. She lost her job. She snapped one day. And she went into a local gun shop and filled out a flyer. Have you ever, the guy asked her, have you ever been in jail? Are you in a mental hospital? Are you on drugs? I mean, it's like she's going to say yes. She's no. Gets 2 guns, and...
This is a much bigger epidemic than polio was in the first half of this century, 10 times bigger. And all of the people up here who have spoken so eloquently this morning are victims of that epidemic. Not only the individuals who died or were maimed, but all of the survivors who live with this grief every day. And we need to start wherever we are, in our homes, in our communities, with our family and friends, to do what we can to separate our children from the agent of this epidemic.
Let me ask you a question. Should I hide, I would not have one in my house, but should I hide a gun?
Well, I think if we have to realize that guns don't mean the same thing today as they did 20 or 40 or 60 or 100 years ago, and that they are fascinating to our children, and that they are everywhere. And we have to make a decision as to whether we want this dangerous item in our homes. If we do, they must be locked up separately from the bullets, as you described. That's very important. But many families will decide that it just is too dangerous.
It has been.
Are you gaining anything?
I think we're gaining ground, but we hear the stories every day of children dying, the 15 stories a day, and I have to talk to the parents of the people who are dying. Guns in the home do not make for a safe home, and guns in the society do not make for a safe society. If they did, the United States would be the safest society in the world. We're not. We're one of the most dangerous.
The least safe society in the world. The object of Michael's organization is to ban private possession of handguns. Do you really think you can ever do that? I mean, that lobby is so enormous. Do you really think you can do it?
I think we always have to try. We've got to get these instruments off our streets. We have a real serious problem coming down the road. Now we have a lot of 10-year-olds, thousands of 10-year-olds out there who are going to turn 15 at the turn of the century. And if we continue adding 2 million guns a year to our arsenal, the demographers say we're going to have a bloodbath at the turn of the century.